There's just the small matter of a Merseyside derby on Wednesday, Anfield under the lights. And I'm massively looking forward to this because it feels like 100 years since we played a game, and hoping there's going to be positive answers as we go through this step by step. Just focus on the players that went on international duty, because there was a few question marks, wasn't there, around Gravenberch withdrew, Alisson we think was concussion, and a few others. Is there any question marks still, or do we think we're all good on those that went on international duty and came back?
Yeah, so both of those expected to be absolutely fine. I think with Alisson, it was just concussion protocols and they wanted to look after him. But obviously that game was ages ago now, so he should be absolutely fine to be part of this one. And Gravenberch was kind of precautionary, so again, should be fine to play in this one. That was certainly the expectation when he did withdraw from international duty. So should be a clean bill of health in terms of those two, and no other issues as far as I'm aware at the moment in terms of injuries picked up on international. So yeah, Liverpool should be looking in decent shape.
I mean, touch wood, just in case Karma is listening, but actually out of all the players, you thought Gravenberch maybe needed a rest. If all the others coming back, this could actually be as good as it gets, shall we say, for the international break, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're always worrying, aren't you, that you could have this run in. I still think Liverpool would have won the league regardless, but you just didn't want a big injury that would have made it a little bit more tricky for them, would have added any more pressure or anything like that. So yeah, always a relief when you get players back. And as you say, with Gravenberch, no bad thing whatsoever that he picked up that knock in the cup final. Gets a bit of a rest now, because I think it's been overblown really about the tiredness in the Liverpool squad. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of that talk, but I think one player who is definitely showing signs of fatigue for me is Gravenberch, and understandably so. So for him to get a little bit of a rest there was definitely a good thing, and hopefully we see the best version of him coming back for these last few games, particularly as the schedule's not as busy. That should really help him, because he's been kind of running to the ground this season, hasn't he? So I think that will be helpful that he's had a little bit of a rest before this run in now.
So fingers crossed, Alisson, Grav, it seems absolutely fine. The right back situation, because obviously the focus on Trent has been on something completely different, and there's been rumours, as you'll have seen, for the last 24 hours. Is there any potential good news around Connor Bradley, do we think?
Yeah, so I'm hearing he's training this week, which is really, really good news. So expecting him to be back, which I just think is massive, because obviously Trent isn't available at the moment. So, and I think, so it's not just the case of you missing Trent and therefore your game falls apart. It's that you're missing Bradley as well. And Quansah is, he's a good young player, isn't he? Real talented player, but he isn't a natural right back, and he can be pressed. He can be made to look very uncomfortable in possession. He doesn't know his angles so much in that position as well. So, Liverpool have got no real outlet down that side, and it also kills Salah having someone who's not really dragging players away from him. So he can he finds it harder to pick out pockets of space as well. So I think it'd be absolutely massive to get Connor Bradley back for this one, and he knows what a derby's all about as well. Perfect player for that. Hopefully, and the expectation is that he will be available for this one, which is a major boost, I think.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That will be absolutely huge. And they'll want to be careful with him because of his muscle injuries, the hamstrings already. They don't want to sort of go back into another situation, especially if they're looking for him to be the first choice with this one. If there is any doubt, in the weirdest way, would you think Quansah for Everton, a physical and aerial side, might actually not be the worst game? Because it's not quite like the Carabao Cup, is it, with Newcastle? Everton will look to make it an ugly game this Wednesday.
Yeah, but I think they'll struggle to do that as well as they did at Goodison Park. I think the game's going to be played much more on Liverpool's terms, which, if that is then the case, then you're coming up against a low block and you need people who can kind of unpick it. You need more footballers on the pitch, really, than lads who can head the ball away. I think playing Quansah at right back at Goodison Park, you probably wouldn't have lost that much, really, because Liverpool couldn't progress the ball anyway. And they were poor in that aspect. So it was about winning your battles and winning headers and being physical. So it probably would have been helpful there. But I think in a game at Anfield, you need someone like Bradley who can dribble, who can control the ball in tight spaces, who can pick out little passes. and Jarell Quansah doesn't quite have that. So yeah, I believe that Bradley's going to be fit, and I think that is really good news to Liverpool.
Yeah, just feel it could be such an important part of this. And with all the players, fingers crossed, like coming back and availability, Mo Salah will be past Ramadan now, Eid Mubarak. So, happy Eid Mubarak to everyone who's been celebrating. Is it hard? Is it easy to pick this lineup? Because I'm really struggling with everything we're seeing right now, because even Cody Gakpo's played the few games for Holland, so you think he comes into the mix. How confident are you of not 11, but a good number of positions in this one?
Yeah, I think because the manager's been pretty settled, hasn't he, in terms of his starting 11 this season, and largely anyway. So I think a lot of it does kind of pick itself. I mean, you can go Alisson, Conor Bradley right back, Canate, Van Dijk, Robertson. I think you can almost certainly say that five will start. Midfield, it will be the three, won't it? It'll be Gravenberch, McAllister, and Szoboszlai, no question about that. Barring any kind of injuries or issues there. And then your only question mark is kind of in the forward line, because he hasn't had someone who's really nailed down that centre forward spot this season. It's been up for grabs because no one has really played that well. So that's been the reason that no one's kind of been a consistent starter there. So you say Salah would start. I think it's good that Gakpo's had minutes and he got a goal as well, and that he looked a bit more like he's in rhythm. So again, if he's back to himself, then surely he starts, because he has been a starter. And then it's about, okay, do you go with Diaz, do you go with Jota, or do you go with Nunes? And again, he'd probably make that decision purely on training. But I think on the basis of what we've seen so far this season, maybe it will be Diaz. Really, that's the one that's kind of worked better than any of them. So maybe that is, I've talked myself into that 11, but the very few, I think, points of debate in it really, and left wing and centre forward are probably the main two.
Yeah, probably true, and a bit of a damning indictment on the two number 9s and maybe where their future holds, but that's a question for another day. And the final one for this, they'll be pumped up for it anyway, because it's Anfield under the lights. It's a derby. There's so much to look forward to, but everyone's going to go back to that 2-2 draw at Goodison, where Tarkowski smashed it into the top corner last minute. That their cup final, the boards coming down, all that type of thing, and the Decore Curtis Jones incident right near the end as well. There's plenty of spice, but Liverpool will be bang up for this one, won't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, without the kind of Goodison aspect as well, I think Everton would have found it very difficult to match Liverpool. It has such an effect. And, the hope is that Anfield can kind of do the same to Everton and make them worse. And, and also it's not just making, I think Goodison was a bit of a leveler, really. And the reality is that Liverpool are many, many, many points ahead of Everton at the moment. Yeah. So they are a far better side, and they tend to show it at Anfield as well. So, they'll be looking to do that, and I think I expect that they will, and I think we'll see a proper Liverpool performance and really see Everton put to the sword, because they'll want payback for the way that derby finished, for the bad blood that was around that, the touchline bans and the red cards and everything. It was it was a proper derby, wasn't it? But this is a chance for Liverpool to have a proper derby that's played on their terms, and to get those bragging rights. So, I'm confident for Liverpool for this one.
Yeah, I think many of us are confident. Many of us are hopeful, especially to go 3 points closer to that Premier League title. So there we go, people. There is a derby under the lights on Wednesday in the immediate future. A little bit further down the line, FSG may be looking at purchasing a second club. That may come to fruition. A bit further down the line, there's a transfer window 1, then a transfer window 2. We know Liverpool will be active, but we've absolutely not a clue who that will be for right now. We'll all have to see how this unfolds. All it leaves me to say is ever, David, for the time, the insight, and the analysis, it is much appreciated.
Thanks for having me.
And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters by Anfield Index.